Hello and welcome into the On the Farm podcast, episode number 6. I'm T.J. Mathewson, joined alongside the brains of this podcast, Jeremy Buch. Jeremy, with spring training going along, we're getting to finally see a lot more of these guys getting games. The AL Central top 30 prospect lists have been released this week. We're going to touch on that. We have a few injuries to address, Mark Appel, and talking more about the first week of spring training. So we got a pretty loaded episode so far. Good week, as always, during spring training for baseball. First up, so we're going to touch on the AL Central top 30s. There's 4 of them released. The White Sox system still has not been released, but I'm going to talk about the Cleveland Indians system, and one guy in particular, Willie Castro, who actually currently right now he's playing the Angels. So he's shortstop prospect in, I believe he's number 6. I'm going to look that up real quick, but I believe he is number 6 in the Indians organization. And yep, he is, he's number 5 in the Indians organization. As I mentioned, he's 2 for 2 against the Angels today, 2 hits and an RBI. And for spring training, he's 2 for 5, small sample size in career. In spring training, he is 3 for 12, 1 run scored and 1 RBI, so that's cool for him. But on his minor league career, Castro last year only made it to high A ball. He's out of the Dominican Republic, signed July 2nd, 2013, so I thought he was a lot older prospect than he actually is, but no. Last year he only spent time in high A ball, 290 batting average, 337 on-base percentage, 424 slugging percentage, 136 hits, and 24 doubles, 3 triples, 11 home runs. He walked 28 times and struck out 90 times, so in a system that, well, it's gone. Clint Frazier's was gone a couple years ago, and now Francisco Mejia and Tristan McKenzie have been at the top of that farm system for a while. Someone I just wanted to highlight who is under them a little bit.
Yeah, overall, the Cleveland system is okay, in my opinion. I think that they need to look more at some position players rather than just outfielders and pitchers in the draft. Moving on to the second team we will be going through in the AL Central, which would be the Detroit Tigers. The Tigers will probably be one of the bottom 5 teams in Major League Baseball, but their farm system is, I don't want to say fully replenished, but definitely got some much-needed young depth, young talent. One guy I really, really want to touch on is Daz Cameron. He was part of the Justin Verlander trade. He was picked number 37 overall in the 2015 draft by the Astros. He's 21. He is 6'2", 185. He is the son of former big league center fielder Mike Cameron. But Daz last year split between A-ball in Quad City and in Western Michigan with the Tigers. He had 271, had 32 stolen bases, 14 home runs, 74 RBIs, walked 48 times through 123 games. So he's got a lot of potential to be good. There's not really a defined picture future-wise for the Detroit outfield, so he can definitely make a statement and make some improvements in his game. He's currently unassigned to a team as spring training's happening, so they're going to kind of see how his development went over this year, but he's been very, very nice. And overall, their top 4 pitching prospects in Franklin Perez, Matt Manning, Alex Faedo, and Bo Burrows could all start at the Major League level in a few years. The other team in the AL Central are the Kansas City Royals, who on the field, MLB level, are not showing too much, and in their prospect system have kind of thinned out after those win-now years closer to when they won the World Series. But one guy I do want to highlight, he was drafted in the second round, 52nd overall of this past draft. He spent the year in Rookie League through 47 games. He had 262, the average isn't the greatest, but he had a 374 on base percentage, and he wasn't really putting as many balls out of the park or anything. He wasn't hitting a whole bunch of doubles, but 44 hits, 25 runs. He's very, very good defensively. He gave up a commitment to Florida International to play for the Royals, and I think he's got a lot of athleticism. He's quicker than the majority of catchers. I think he can really make an impact for them. TJ's got the Twins over here.
So the Twins, 3 of their top 5 prospects are all shortstops. Now, you might say, yeah, they're putting an emphasis on shortstop, and their shortstops at the major league level aren't exactly elite. I'm going to highlight one of those 3 shortstops in their top 5. Nick Gordon caught my eye, obviously, because he's the brother of now Mariners center fielder D. Gordon. He drafted in 2014, 5th overall. He is ranked number 80 on the top 100 prospects list this year, and number 10 on the top 10 shortstops prospect last year at Double-A, a 270 batting average, a 341 on base percentage, a 408 slugging percentage, 9 home runs, which is kind of surprising, judging that him and D are about the same, and D doesn't exactly hit a lot of home runs, so like to see that power there. 9 home runs, 8 triples, 29 doubles, 140 total hits. He struck out 134 times and walked 53. So, I mean, he comes in at number 4 in an absolutely loaded twin system with looking up in the prospect rankings at Royce Lewis, so that you would think that Nick Gordon might move around the diamond to somewhere else, maybe third, maybe transition to outfield, put that speed to use. But, yeah, that's the guy I'm going to highlight from the twin system.
Well, that's going to basically wrap it up for the AL Central recap on the top 30 prospect list. We're going to move on to a couple injuries that have happened so far through spring training and just camp in general. Michael Chavis, I want to say number 1 prospect for the Boston Red Sox. He is out with a left oblique strain since February 21st, and there has been no timetable for his return. That's a little worrisome. He said it was a swing in an open cage, which is interesting. It must have been he was exerting a bunch of energy into that swing. But overall, he had 31 homers between high A and double A last year, and he's been improving. So this kind of sets back his development for a sec, and it's something to look for. And you don't really like to see this out of your top prospect, but we're hoping he gets a speedy recovery and he's back out on the field as soon as possible. And the other one I wanted to touch on, this actually happened to White Sox third baseman, their first-round pick this year, Jake Berger. He was running to first base, and he collapsed on the ground in pain, grabbing his left ankle closer to his bottom of his foot, and he ended up getting carted off for the game. The next day they revealed he tore his left Achilles and will be out for the season. So that's a big loss. He was developing well. He was a great clubhouse presence both for veterans and for other rookies. He just really, really is a good presence for that team, showing the future is bright. The White Sox are dealing with him, and then they also have Eloy Jimenez has been dealing with some knee soreness, and Mika Rodolfo is also out. So, I mean, hopefully those White Sox players can get healthy again and keep showing why the White Sox have a top 3, if not top 2 farm system in baseball.
So, speaking of it, it always sucks to see injuries, especially the Achilles one. I watched the video of that, and you could see the frustration in his face, and you just hate to see all that work you put in go to waste for this season. He's going to have to completely retool and, have to come back stronger next year. We see how injuries have affected players, and example A is the guy we're about to talk about next, Mark Appel.
So Mark Appel has decided to retire. He was the first overall pick in the 2013 draft by the Houston Astros. He was great at Stanford, outstanding senior year. He was expected to just blaze through the minors. He actually never got past AAA for any team and has decided that he's retiring. He's 26. He said he didn't close the door on a possible return, but he has plans to enter a business world through an internship. He's looking to maybe go back to a business school, but it's really, really sad to see because he had some injuries, and I mean, there aren't a whole bunch of other, I don't want to say busts, but I mean, the second pick in that draft was Chris Bryant, and the third pick was John Gray, and both of those guys have made large impacts for their teams. And you look back at other players, Aaron Judge, Cody Bellinger, Corey Knebel, Hunter Renfroe, Tim Anderson, a lot of those guys ended up working out a lot better, and Appel finished his career with 375 and a third innings, a 5.06 ERA, and a 1.52 WHIP. Walks were just an issue, and he could not get his consistency there. It's really, really sad to see, and I mean, I guess I wish him the best.
So it's got to be something with the Astros and picking a left-handed starting pitcher, the first overall pick, because the guy they would pick the next year, Brady Aiken, is now currently in the at number 1 overall. That is currently the number 29 prospect in the Indian system. So, I mean, the Astros, we've seen them hit on first-round picks like George Springer and Carlos Correa. And then you look at these guys and imagine what they could be now if they had a couple of ace lefties on the mound to join. They probably wouldn't have Verlander now if they were aces. But to join Keuchel, that would be pretty incredible. But unfortunate that neither of these two guys are able to really figure it out. Also in this 2014 draft, you see Carlos Rodon, Kyle Schwarber, Michael Conforto, Kyle Freeland, Trey Turner for the Padres back when he was a Padre. So a bunch of guys that are producing now at the major league level that Astros just whiffed on. They whiffed on it 2 years in a row.
Yeah, and moving on to our next talking point here, we've talked about Julio Pablo Martinez in the past. He is a international player defected from Cuba. He was recently fined $100,000 by Major League Baseball for paperwork discrepancies, which is kind of I wouldn't say extreme, but also $100,000 for a guy defecting from Cuba just seems a little crazy to me.
A little excessive.
A little excessive, but
he hasn't even signed yet, has he?
He hasn't signed with any team, and it looks as though he was eyeing either the Rangers, the Marlins, or the Yankees. So he will be making his decision pretty soon. That fine doesn't really help him, obviously, because you don't really know how much his contract's going to be or what his money situation is. So it's interesting.
How do you fine a guy $100,000 when he hasn't even signed a contract yet? I could say I'm going to try and play in the MLB. Is the MLB going to fine me $100K?
It really, I want to find out more details about it because they're not really releasing too much on why. They just said paperwork discrepancies, which could literally mean maybe he spelled his name wrong. Obviously, that's not going to be the reason, but so many intricacies go into paperwork and contract negotiations, and especially when you're defecting from a country like Cuba and coming to the U.S., there's a lot of different things. Maybe it was a passport issue, visa, something, but I mean, he's a very, very talented player. He's 21 years old. He's got a lot of potential, and he's already part of the international top 30 prospects on MLB.com. So, I mean, that's awesome to see, but hopefully he ends up getting signed by one of those three teams or maybe a surprise team. We'll see. We always love surprises, but this past week of spring training games, we just want to highlight a couple of guys, speak on a couple different prospects. TJ, I know you got one.
So actually, first off, even though I do hold a grudge against this team and this player now that things didn't go my way, but Shohei Ohtani, a decent first day at the plate. I think it was 2 days ago. He had 2 walks and a base hit in his first plate, or his first 3 at bats. Went pretty well for him. On the mound, he wasn't as great. I believe he gave up 2 runs in like an inning and a third, so still working. But the stuff was there. I did watch most of his pitches that he threw. Looked clean, crisp, and I know it's early, but he does look like the real deal, barring injury. Other guy I wanted to shout out, Willie Calhoun. I've talked about it. I think he can be a really good hitter, especially in the AL West, especially with the Texas Rangers in that ballpark. In spring training so far, yes, small sample size, but 3 for 8, 2 runs scored, 2 RBIs, a stolen base. Today, I believe he was. Had 2 walks, was 1 for 2, or it was yesterday. It was one of these 2 days. So yeah, 375 average so far in the spring, and looking to make an impact with the Rangers in the majors this year. Hope maybe I was thinking as a designated hitter, but who knows?
A few guys I want to highlight. There are a couple guys for me. First off, a guy, he's in the Grapefruit League. He's playing for the Cardinals. He was a part of the Steven Piscotty trade. Kind of a lot of people didn't expect a whole lot. Yairo Munoz, a shortstop, age 23. His spring training stats before today were in 15 at-bats. He had 7 hits, 3 runs, 2 home runs, 5 RBIs, a stolen base. His slash line, crazy, 467, 467, and 1,400. Obviously, it's not that many games in spring training, but it's nice to see that he has this huge boost in confidence maybe, or just the way he's hitting, but it's working. And actually in today's game earlier against the Orioles was a 10-9 win for St. Louis, but he went 3 for 5, 2 runs, 4 RBIs, 2 home runs. So Munoz is absolutely killing it so far. I don't really see a way where he cracks this year's starting lineup, but he could definitely be a nice platoon guy or bench piece, and it'd be amazing. Another guy I want to highlight, he actually had an inside the park home run a couple days ago. Franchi Cordero for the Padres. And then also David Bodie, he plays for the Cubs. He went 2 for 3 with a triple and an RBI yesterday, and he has been consistently hitting, and it's really, really nice to see that, as he was a fall league guy, and he might be able to crack that lineup, maybe be the future Ben Zobrist minus the outfield part, just a nice utility infielder, and it would be cool to see that. Also, recently, On the Farm Podcast has a Twitter page now. Go give us a follow at On the Farm Show. Also, we have a YouTube page, so all of our shows will be archived on our YouTube page. Just type in On the Farm Podcast, and it'll all be there. Also, we'll be posting tweets about stuff coming up. Obviously, spring break for most college students, but we'll be tweeting out plenty of stats and key plays and key updates.
So I will not be here next week. We'll have a guest host, Josh Zackless, next week. So be sure to be on the lookout for that. If y'all miss me, you're just going to have to wait 2 weeks. I'll be at home in Seattle enjoying my spring break. Jeremy will be here, though. Jeremy, actually, you want to talk a little bit about the event you're attending next week?
So I'll actually be attending the Sabre Analytics Conference. It's a way that the Society for American Baseball Research, for those of you who are not aware of the society, what they do is they have a conference every March in Phoenix, and they'll invite many different people around baseball to come and speak about I don't want to say innovations, but kind of about analytics and newer stats. Just to give you a few names, I know that Andy McKay from the Mariners will be there, and he is their director of player development. Brian Kenny, Eric Gagne is going to be there, former Cy Young winner. We're also going to have Philip Cho, who's a senior analyst for the Dodgers. Just a lot more player development. Actually, something I'm really, really interested in. There's a guy named Jarrett Sims. He's the CEO of Monsterful VR, which is using VR to help players with their swings and different situations in a game, as well as Chris Getz, the director of player development for the White Sox. And obviously, the White Sox are pretty good at player development right now, whether it be trading or acquisitions, but he's done a great job. So it'll be very, very fun. I will have plenty to share next episode, so make sure you tune in next time.
Absolutely. With that, for myself, T.J. Mathewson and Jeremy Buch, signing off for episode 6 of the On the Farm podcast. Be sure to stay up to date and look out for later episodes. Thanks for listening, and have a great rest of your day.